The meeting that changed everything. Ambassador Vecron stood in the observation deck of the Coalition orbital station, watching the approaching vessel with 3 of his eyes while the 4th monitored the data screen beside him. The ship was human-made, angular and efficient in design, lacking the elegant curves that most civilized species preferred. Everything about it spoke of function over form, purpose over beauty. The humans had been discovered only 8 months ago. A peaceful encounter near the outer rim had led to diplomatic exchanges, trade discussions, and now this formal integration meeting. On paper, everything looked normal. The humans seemed friendly, eager to join the galactic community, and willing to share their knowledge. But something made Vecron uneasy. His assistant, a young diplomat named Thera from the crystalline Luxari species, approached with a data pad glowing in her translucent hands. Ambassador, the human delegation has docked. They are proceeding to Conference Hall 7 as requested. Vecron turned all 4 eyes toward her. And they brought their military representative? Yes, Ambassador. As per Coalition protocol, they have brought someone to discuss their defense capabilities. Thera's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. Though I must note something unusual in the preliminary scans. What is it? The military representative registers as having sustained significant historical physical trauma. Fractures, tissue damage, old injuries that our medical technology would have completely erased. Yet she serves actively. Vecron felt a chill run through his body. Most species removed their injured from military service. The fact that humans kept such individuals in active duty suggested either desperation or something far more concerning. The walk to Conference Hall 7 took 10 minutes through the curved corridors of the station. The Coalition orbital station housed representatives from 63 species, a monument to peace and cooperation. Weapons were forbidden here, except for the station's security force. It was neutral ground, safe ground. The conference hall was circular, with a round table at its center. Already seated were representatives from the major coalition powers. General Kravik of the warrior Thorian species, Counselor Yemera of the intellectual Sindari, and Defense Coordinator Quen of the aquatic Nereids. They all rose slightly as Vecron entered. And there, at the far end of the table, sat 3 humans. 2 wore simple civilian clothing, professional and neat. They smiled warmly, their faces open and welcoming. These were the diplomats, and they looked entirely harmless. The 3rd human was different. She wore a military uniform of dark gray with various insignia Vecron did not recognize. Her hair was pulled back severely, revealing a face marked by a thin scar running from her left temple to her jaw. Her posture was relaxed, almost casual, but her eyes moved constantly, tracking each movement in the room with predatory focus. When those eyes met Vecron's, he felt something primal stir in his chest. Fear. "Welcome, Ambassador Vecron," said the female diplomat, rising with a slight bow. "I am Ambassador Chin, Senior Diplomatic Representative of Earth. This is my colleague Dr. Marcus Webb, and this is Commander Rachel Torres of the United Earth Defense Force." The soldier did not stand. She simply nodded once, a minimal acknowledgement that somehow conveyed both respect and absolute confidence. Vecron took his seat carefully. "Thank you for coming. As you know, the Coalition requires all member species to provide basic information about their military capabilities. This ensures mutual understanding and cooperation for our common defense." Ambassador Chin smiled. "Of course. Commander Torres is here to answer any questions about our military structure." Vecron focused on the human soldier. "Commander Torres, please tell us about your military forces. How large is your defense organization?" Torres spoke for the first time. Her voice was level, neither friendly nor hostile, simply matter-of-fact. The United Earth Defense Force consists of approximately 15 million active personnel across all branches. We maintain ground forces, naval forces, atmospheric forces, and space forces. Each branch operates under unified command. General Kravik leaned forward, his armored plates shifting. The Thorians were a warrior species, respected throughout the galaxy for their military prowess. 15 million seems substantial for a single planet species. What is your population? 12 billion, Torres replied. Counselor Yemera's telepathic voice echoed in everyone's minds, a trait of the Sindari species. That is actually a very small military relative to your population. How do you maintain adequate defense with such limited forces? Quality over quantity, Torres said simply. Our training is extensive, and our soldiers are highly adaptable. Describe your training process, Vecron requested, trying to keep his voice steady. Basic training is 16 weeks. After that, soldiers receive specialized training based on their assignment. Infantry, armor, aviation, medical, intelligence, engineering. Each specialty requires additional months of training. However, training never stops. A soldier continues learning throughout their entire career. Defense Coordinator Quen's aquatic voice burbled through his translation device. 16 weeks? Our warriors train for 4 years before they are considered combat ready. How can you possibly prepare a soldier adequately in such a short time? Torres's expression did not change. 16 weeks gives them the foundations. The real training happens in the field, through experience and continuous education. We believe in practical application over theoretical study. Vecron studied the scar on her face. Commander, how long have you served? 19 years. And in that time have you seen combat? For the first time Torres paused. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of experience. I have participated in 6 major conflicts and 47 combat operations across multiple environments. I have been wounded 8 times. The room fell silent. 8 times wounded and she still served. The medical technology to heal her existed, yet the scars remained. What? General Kravik's voice was strained. 8 combat wounds. Most species would retire such an individual with honors. Why do you continue to serve? Because I can, Torres said. Humans heal. We recover. Some injuries leave permanent marks, but they do not necessarily impair function. I am still capable, so I still serve. Vecron's translator had difficulty with the next question, his own language failing to capture his growing dread. Commander Torres, you describe yourself as regular infantry. Does this mean you are not part of an elite or specialized unit? Torres's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. Correct, Ambassador. I am standard ground forces. Regular infantry. Nothing special. Nothing special, Counselor Yemera repeated, her telepathic voice tinged with disbelief. Dr. Webb, the human diplomat who had been silent until now, shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we should clarify. Commander Torres is being modest. She is a highly decorated officer with extensive experience. But still regular forces, Torres interrupted. Not special operations. There is a distinction. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Vecron forced himself to ask the question that terrified him. Commander, you mentioned specialized forces. What makes them different from regular soldiers like yourself? Torres looked directly at him. Special operations forces undergo training that lasts years instead of months. They are taught to operate independently behind enemy lines for extended periods. They complete missions that regular forces cannot attempt. They are trained to survive conditions that would kill normal soldiers. They endure situations that would break regular military personnel. Break them how? Yemera asked. Psychologically. Physically. They learn to function beyond normal human limitations. Sleep deprivation, extreme temperatures, sustained pain, isolation. They are taught to push past the point where most humans would surrender or die. General Kravik's armored plates had turned pale, a sign of fear in his species. And you are not one of these special soldiers. No, General. I am regular infantry. The silence stretched for a full minute. Finally, Vecron asked the question that had been building since the moment Torres entered the room. Commander, if you are a regular soldier and you have survived 8 combat wounds, 6 major conflicts, and 19 years of service, and you can do all the things you describe, then what can your special forces do? Torres held his gaze. Her eyes were calm, patient, and utterly certain. With respect, Ambassador, you do not want to know. The meeting concluded shortly after. The human delegation departed with promises of further discussions and cooperation. But none of the coalition representatives spoke as they left the conference hall. Vecron returned to his quarters and immediately began writing his report. His hands trembled as he typed. We have made contact with a species unlike any we have encountered, he wrote. They describe warfare capabilities that exceed our understanding. Their regular soldiers, their ordinary forces, possess abilities that rival our elite warriors. And they have not yet revealed their true military strength. He paused, staring at the words on the screen. Recommendation. We must ensure Earth becomes and remains an ally. We must never, under any circumstances, give humanity a reason to consider us an enemy. Because what we have seen today is only the beginning. The regular soldiers made us afraid. Their special forces remain in the shadows. And I pray to every deity in the galaxy that they stay there. Vecron sent the report with the highest classification level available. 3 months later, the coalition would learn exactly why his fear was justified. The Helios Sector Crisis. 3 months had passed since the meeting with Commander Torres. 3 months during which Ambassador Vecron had tried to convince himself that his fears were exaggerated. 3 months of watching humanity integrate smoothly into the coalition, proving themselves to be reasonable, peaceful, and cooperative partners. Then the Helios sector crisis began, and every nightmare Vecron had imagined became reality. The Helios sector sat on the edge of coalition space, containing 4 inhabited worlds and dozens of mining stations. For years, it had been plagued by raiders, an organized criminal fleet that struck supply convoys, raided settlements, and disappeared into the asteroid fields before coalition forces could respond. Multiple military operations had failed. General Kravik's Thorian warriors had been ambushed and forced to retreat with heavy casualties. The Nereid's advanced fleet had been outmaneuvered in the complex asteroid terrain. Even the Sindari's tactical brilliance had proven insufficient against an enemy who knew every hiding spot in the sector. The raiders numbered approximately 5,000, according to intelligence reports. They were well-armed, well-organized, and utterly ruthless. They had turned the Helios sector into their personal territory, and the coalition seemed powerless to stop them. It was Counselor Yemera who suggested asking the humans for assistance. "They are new members," her telepathic voice echoed in the emergency council session. "They wish to prove their value. Perhaps their military capabilities, unusual as they are, might succeed where we have failed." Vecron had opposed the idea initially. The thought of seeing human soldiers in actual combat filled him with dread. But the council voted to extend the invitation, and humanity accepted immediately. Ambassador Chen's response came within hours. "Earth is honored to assist our coalition partners. We will dispatch a force to handle the situation." When Vecron reviewed the deployment orders, his blood ran cold. 200 soldiers. Just 200. He immediately contacted the human embassy. "Ambassador Chen, there must be an error in the transmission. The raiders number 5,000. 200 soldiers cannot possibly be sufficient." Chen's face on the video screen showed only calm confidence. "Ambassador Vecron, I assure you 200 is more than adequate. We are sending the 3rd Battalion, 75th Infantry Regiment. They are highly experienced in this type of operation." "Infantry?" Vecron's voice rose despite his attempt to remain diplomatic. "Not your special forces?" "No, Ambassador. This situation does not require special operations. Regular infantry will handle it." The words echoed in Vecron's mind for days. Regular infantry. The same category as Commander Torres. Soldiers that humanity considered ordinary. The human battalion arrived in the Helios sector 2 weeks later. Vecron was present to observe, along with General Kravik, Defense Coordinator Quinn, and a team of coalition military analysts. They watched from a safe distance aboard a command vessel as the human transport ships entered the sector. The human commanding officer was a man named Lieutenant Colonel David Park. He was shorter than Torres, with a quiet voice and an unremarkable appearance. He looked like someone who might work in an office, not lead soldiers into combat. But his eyes held the same quality Vecron had seen in Torres. That calm, patient certainty. "We have reviewed your intelligence data," Park said during the briefing. "The Raider organization uses the asteroid field near Helios Prime as their primary base. They have approximately 4,800 fighters distributed across multiple locations, with their command structure centralized in the largest asteroid cluster." General Kravik's plates shifted nervously. "Colonel Park, you have only 200 soldiers. Even with surprise on your side, the numbers are overwhelmingly against you. We should request additional coalition forces." "That will not be necessary, General," Park replied. "We have identified their command structure and supply lines. Once we eliminate those, the organization will collapse." "But how will you reach their base?" Quinn burbled. "The asteroid field is heavily defended. We have lost dozens of ships attempting to penetrate it." Park touched a control panel, bringing up a tactical hologram. "You use ships, Coordinator. Large vessels that the raiders could detect from great distances. We are going to use a different approach." The hologram showed the asteroid field in detail, thousands of rocks tumbling through space in chaotic patterns. Red markers indicated known raider positions, dozens of them scattered throughout the field. "We are going to insert our soldiers directly into the asteroid field," Park said calmly. "Small deployment pods, unpowered, drifting on ballistic trajectories. The raiders will not detect us until we are already in position." Vecron stared at the hologram in horror. "Colonel, those pods are tiny. Your soldiers will be floating in space for hours, in darkness, in freezing cold, with no power, no life support beyond basic oxygen." 18 hours actually, Park corrected. That is how long it will take for the pods to drift into optimal positions. The soldiers have thermal suits and breathing apparatus. They will be fine. 18 hours without moving, without communication, sealed in a container barely larger than a coffin, General Kravik said slowly. Most species would go insane from the psychological stress alone. Park's expression did not change. Our soldiers are trained for extended operations in hostile environments. This is well within their capabilities. The operation began at 0300 station time. Vecron watched from the command ship as small deployment pods were launched from the human transport vessels. Each pod contained 10 soldiers, sealed inside with only minimal equipment. The pods were launched from multiple angles, using only their initial momentum to carry them toward the asteroid field. No engines, no power signatures, nothing that would register on enemy sensors. Just small metal containers drifting silently through the void. Defense Coordinator Quinn's aquatic voice trembled through his translator. This is madness. The cold of space alone should kill them. The isolation, the darkness, 18 hours of this. The human liaison officer assigned to the command ship, a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Kim, shook her head. Humans can survive in extreme temperatures for extended periods. We have evolved to adapt to hostile environments. The soldiers' training includes much worse conditions than this. Worse than being sealed in a box drifting through space for 18 hours? Vecron asked. Kim smiled slightly. Yes, Ambassador. Much worse. The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. The tactical display showed the tiny dots representing human deployment pods slowly entering the asteroid field. They drifted past raider patrol ships, floated near defense platforms and sensor arrays, and nothing detected them. Vecron could not look away from the display. Somewhere inside those tiny pods were 200 human soldiers, sitting in darkness and cold, waiting with infinite patience for the moment to strike. At hour 17, Lieutenant Kim spoke. All units report ready status. After 17 hours sealed in those pods, they are ready to fight? General Kravik asked in disbelief. Yes, General. At hour 18, Colonel Park's voice came over the communication channel. One word. Execute. What happened next would be analyzed by coalition military strategists for years to come. The first explosion erupted deep within the asteroid field. A raider ammunition depot vanished in a brilliant flash. Then another explosion and another. Within 3 minutes, 16 raider positions were destroyed. The communication channels filled with panicked voices. Raiders screaming in confusion. Commanders demanding information. Ships attempting to launch without knowing where the attacks were coming from. And through it all, the human soldiers moved like ghosts. Vecron watched the tactical display in stunned silence. The blue dots representing human squads appeared, struck a target, and vanished before the raiders could respond. They moved through the asteroid field with impossible speed and precision, using small thruster packs to propel themselves from rock to rock. How are they moving so fast? General Kravik demanded. The asteroids are hundreds of meters apart. Zero-gravity combat training, Lieutenant Kim replied. Our soldiers train for years to master three-dimensional movement in space. They use short thruster bursts, then coast using momentum. In an environment like this, they are faster and more maneuvered than any ship. A raider voice screamed over the captured communication channel. They are inside the station. They are everywhere. How did they get inside? The transmission cut off abruptly. The battle lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of systematic destruction. 14 hours of human soldiers dismantling an organization that had terrorized the Helios sector for years. When it ended, the raider fleet was gone. Their bases were destroyed. Their command structure was eliminated. Their supply depots were burning. The survivors fled the sector and were never seen again. Coalition forces had failed against these raiders for years. Hundreds of warriors had died in previous attempts. Dozens of ships had been lost. The humans achieved total victory in 14 hours. Their casualties: 3 wounded, 0 dead. Ambassador Vecron sat in the command ship long after the battle ended. He stared at the tactical display, watching the blue dots representing human soldiers return to their transport vessels. General Kravik sat beside him, his armored plates completely pale. He had not spoken in hours. Finally, Vecron turned to Lieutenant Kim. This was a regular infantry battalion. Yes, Ambassador. Not special forces. Correct. They destroyed an enemy force of 5,000 with only 200 soldiers. Yes, sir. Vecron closed all 4 of his eyes. Lieutenant, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Of course, Ambassador. If the coalition ever made a mistake, if we ever did something that angered humanity, something that made you consider us enemies, what would happen to us? Lieutenant Kim was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. Ambassador, I truly hope we never have to find out. The report that Vecron filed with the Coalition Council was classified at the highest level. Only senior leadership was permitted to read it. He described the operation in detail. The 18-hour insertion. The systematic destruction of an enemy that had defeated every coalition force sent against them. The impossible movement through the asteroid field. The precision. The efficiency. The complete victory. But the most important part of the report was his conclusion. The humans deployed regular infantry, he wrote. 200 standard soldiers. They were not specialists. They were not elite forces. They were ordinary military personnel by human standards. They destroyed an enemy that we could not defeat with thousands of our best warriors. I have read the classified files about human special forces. I have seen the training requirements, the selection process, the capabilities they possess. But I did not truly understand what that meant until now. If regular human soldiers can accomplish what I witnessed today, then their special forces are beyond anything the coalition can comprehend or counter. My recommendation is absolute and urgent. We must maintain our alliance with humanity at any cost. We must never give them reason to fight against us. We must never, under any circumstances, make them our enemy. Because what we have seen is merely the baseline of human military capability. Somewhere on Earth, there are soldiers who make these regulars look ordinary. Soldiers who are trusted with missions that even these extraordinary warriors cannot complete. The regular forces made us tremble. The special forces remain unknown. And I pray to every ancestor in the void that they remain that way forever. The Coalition Council read his report in absolute silence. They debated for weeks. They reviewed the combat footage over and over. In the end, they reached unanimous agreement. Humanity was granted full partnership status with unprecedented speed. They were given positions on every major committee. They were included in all strategic decisions. They were treated with respect, admiration, and carefully hidden fear. Always fear. Because the coalition had learned a terrible truth. Humanity's regular soldiers, their ordinary forces, were more capable than the elite warriors of any other species in the galaxy. And somewhere in the shadows, humanity's true warriors waited. The special forces. The ones that even humans spoke of with reverence and caution. The coalition never asked about them directly. They were too afraid of the answer. Ambassador Vecron looked up at the stars each night and offered a prayer of gratitude that humanity valued peace. Because he had seen what their regular soldiers could do. He never wanted to learn what their specialists were capable of. The regular forces had shown the galaxy that humanity was not to be trifled with. The special forces remained a promise unspoken. A threat that never needed to be voiced. And that, Vecron realized, was the most terrifying thing of all.